It is the Movement Boss Podcast. I'm Joe Aguirre along with Karen Ravelise. She is the actual movement boss. This is a very exciting episode. Last time, we were really focused in on baseball and wiffle ball, even more specifically. We talked a lot about Steven Strasburg, the Washington Nationals pitcher, who has had all sorts of issues, and it's things that we're going to talk about how you can avoid these sorts of things, or again, for the weekend warriors, I include myself in that. Is there's this perception that we should be in pain, that these things we love and enjoy we should do in pain, and it's wrong. Today we're talking golf, and we're going to talk about Rory McIlroy. This is going to be awesome. Karen, how are you?
Good. How you doing today,
I am
Joe?
doing excellent. I want to send a quick shout out and our sincerest condolences to our friend Carol and her family. All the best. Sending you all the love and support in the world right now. And if you're a praying person, please say a prayer for Carol and her family.
Definitely.
All right.
Thank you for that.
Yeah. Now, Peter Sheldon, is that his name?
Yes, that's his name.
Peter Sheldon is going to be joining us a little bit later on, and he's going to really help us out as we sort of delve into golf and you and I were talking before we went to air, and I was telling you, the first time you and I met and you talked and you told me what you did, it was like fascinating stuff, and we were talking about my pitching motion and all the different things, and I remember leaving there because you were like, I'd love to team up, do some work together. And I thought, I don't know what she does. I have no idea. Now, I've spent a lot of time with you recently. I do know what you do. And I feel like there is such tremendous value in the stuff that you know about the things that you can explain to us, because, and this is the other big thing, you'll notice sometimes you heard something on the right and then eventually everything on the left starts. Where do you see these diagrams and stuff? I've delved deep. Everything is connected to everything else. Usually if something hurts here, it's because something and so we're going to talk and delve into all of those things. That's sort of what we did in the first episode. And we're going to do it through some of these, different sports that we like to tackle from time to time and generally don't warm up for, which is also terrible.
And I like to make it relatable to what you're doing, because I think it's going to make it more interesting. And then you're going to be able to be like, oh, wow, I think that happens to me too. What can I do about it? So thank you for giving me the opportunity.
Oh, my goodness.
To come on here and talk about these
things.
It's
funny.
It's fun. I love talking about this.
Before we even started doing a podcast, we had a video up and you were talking about, help me again with that thing in the shoulder. What's the fancy word? TSR, whatever it is.
Oh, you're talking about the thoracic outlets.
Yeah,
I know you cracked me up with it because you're like the TOS.
I'm gonna get that someday.
Some kind of disease or something.
But literally, you mentioned that term, and I mean almost instantly. A friend of mine, who a female softball player, was like, "Oh, I didn't know you have that," and I was like, "Well, mine was sort of temporary. She'd been dealing with hers for years." Then we did another episode, and another guy who I kind of know, was like, oh my God, I want to talk to Karen because I have, and his is, I think, also from martial arts.
I could see that. I mean, I had a lot of remember I was telling you myself with the TOS.
Yeah.
But like sometimes martial art people, they're never complaining about this. They're usually complaining about their back or their hips. But this happens to be where I had an issue, and probably somebody else did too. It might have a lot to, like we talked last week, maybe your chamber position and things like that, or just how you hold your neck. I mean, maybe you have a tendency of, positioning your neck incorrectly.
We're eventually going to get to like probably every single sport one way or another. And one of the things that you and I have more recently been talking about is sort of the movement, whether it be martial arts or baseball, softball, wiffle ball, hockey, golf. There's a lot of this. We're all kind of doing the same thing, some low, some high, depends on where you're coming from, but it's all the same motion. I think one of the coolest parts of what we're going to talk about tonight with Rory McIlroy was, I mean, you're talking about one of the best golfers in the world, debatable. But this a guy who has done some incredible things, and he sort of was able to tie his whole golf game together. Not with the, having all the right formatics down. He's always been a good form kind of golfer. There was a major element in his game that was lacking, and I think once he got that part down, became one of the elites in the sport. You want to tell people what that was?
He basically contributed a lot of his he had a rib issue, and he stated that he believed it had to do with his breathing. Also, in reading up on him, I think he had some other issues, like a heart issue. So I'm not gonna be talking about any of that stuff, but I'm sure like the breathing, by him breathing, probably helped, with that as well. But
Yep.
for the most part, he did talk about in the book, Patrick McGowan's book that I was telling you about earlier. He does the oxygen advantage and things like that. He talks a lot about nasal breathing and things. And he basically had written something about him in this book called Mouth Breather, and where he quoted him, where Rory specifically said that he believed he hurt his rib because he wasn't breathing properly. And then he also talked about how he had some allergies and things like that. But then when he started breathing through his nose, he noticed that, a lot of that stuff kind of wasn't as bad. He really wasn't having that issue anymore. He also talked about breathing like from a meditative perspective, not just from a performance perspective, but obviously meditative will help, because especially when he was taking the shot, like the putt, he had to be really calm and cool about that. That's not really a power shot type of thing. So he talked about it in those elements, and that's why I choose to bring him into the mix tonight. And my friend Peter, being a golfer, I thought that it would be nice to talk about him. And everybody that's a golfer pretty much knows about Rory. Would you say that would be correct?
Yes. If you follow golf and you don't know who Rory is, you don't follow golf at all. I mean, I think even the most casual person knows who we're talking about. Yeah. And again, he is, I think it would be hard to argue this guy's not one of the top 5 golfers on the planet right now. And that's pretty high regard. So, yeah, that'll be fun to talk about, and it'll be awesome to see Peter again and chat him up and get some perspective on that. Now, let's talk about this amazing golfer, because look at this guy. You want to explain what's going there, or what's going on there? And one of the things you talk a lot about is, in the stretch, right? And there's the
Love it. That's great, Joe.
What do you call
Rory,
it? How do you say
Rory,
this?
man, you better watch out.
Yeah, I'm coming for you, buddy.
I like that picture. I wanted you to put that one up because I guess he had the stress fracture in his left rib. He's a right-handed golfer, and the sources were saying that they didn't specifically know what rib it was, but they were kind of like speculating that it could be the 4th rib, the 5th rib, or the 6th rib. So the external abdominal oblique, okay, is basically, if you're a right-handed golfer and you go back in the backswing, you're putting the external abdominal oblique on stretch. So you're kind of winding it up, powering it up. So when you actually do your follow through to hit the tee, it's going to contract and shorten. So that muscle kind of starts at rib 5. So if they're talking about his left side and he's a right-handed golfer, then the left side is going to be going on stretch when he finishes the motion. So like right there.
Yeah.
And as you can see it, you can see the right, okay, shortening. It's kind of facing forward. So the right external abdominal oblique is rotating you to the left, where the opposite side is going to do the same thing, but it's going on stretch. So if he's kind of powering through, right, he's starting it, and then as he finishes it, and now he's going back there, He really has that left side on stretch. So I'm not saying that that's like what happened, but you could understand why it maybe possibly could.
Right.
Because when we were talking last week about Aaron Nola, because he had an oblique strain as well. And then we were talking about Steven Strasburg too, because he did too. He had the right side and he had the left side. Now, these two guys are right-handed pitcher. He's also a right-handed golfer. So I would have to speculate that maybe when they had the issue, it might have been in a different position as opposed to his positioning. So it's just me speculating and just trying to like put like the anatomy into functionally like what could be happening in this golf swing. And okay, now there you go. There he is in the backswing. So on the right side, he's got that external abdominal oblique going on stretch. And the left side, right, is shortening essentially, really. I mean, if you want to talk about it.
Yeah.
So when he comes down, the right side is coming. It's going to start to contract. It's going to rotate the trunk to the left. And then as you finish it, now the left has got to kind of like, if you can't control that and you're just like powering and you're tight, right? Let's just say you're not able, it goes back to breathing mechanics again.
Right.
Like I talked about the intra-abdominal pressure. If you're tight on one side of your rib cage and you're not able to get a good breath in, or you got that like six-pack appearance, you never have the ability to be able to stretch. We have this saying that we use in immaculate dissection that we talk about. Immaculate dissection talks about this, where they say, hey, we never trust a six-pack that doesn't go away on an inhale, because you're basically leaving yourself vulnerable. You can't like maintain these constant positions all the time, because your body is it needs to be able to do the both ranges of motion effectively all the time and be able to control. And the fact that he's really powering that, he has to be able to stop that motion as well. So again, you could understand where somebody, could end up with a groin. I'm not sorry. Well, that too, but we're not talking about groin pull right now. We're talking about oblique strains. You could see where somebody would have an oblique strain, or where they would fracture a rib, or like you think of the power behind these things. I mean, this person's a professional golfer.
I can only imagine
they breathe
the power of professional golfer.
Golf.
Again, though, and I've brought this up, and again, Karen, the more I think about it, whether it be CrossFit, whether it be weightlifting, whether it be basketball, football, baseball, when I am about to brace myself on impact, I notice I have a tendency to hold my breath. And
we found that we actually
figured that out
with you, remember?
Yes. And
you were really trying to do like a strong breath hold, but you were doing it in the back, like when you were coming up here.
Yeah.
So
it's interesting, but again, I think it's one of those things where, and that's why I would recommend people spend a little time with you. You ever do a really good job, obviously, of recognizing deficiencies, and again, I think a lot of the times we overcompensate. Again, if my left side is hurting, I'm just going to lean a little more to the right until the right side starts to hurt, and then everything is all right.
Mm-hmm. Well, you can just, you can address like the right side, and then the left side can have, issue too, because you're always trying to, be the best that you can, or, try to coordinate yourself. So it's actually not a bad thing that you're switching sides. I mean, it happens. I mean, I have the same things going on too, different things happen. So, I mean, it's not like I'm perfect myself and like, I have this great movement too. I mean, we're all kind of working on this together.
If you ever get the opportunity to play 18 with me, at some point, I'm going to look at you and be like, you could say things to me. You can coach me. And one of the things I would like you to say to me is, keep your head down. I tell you right now, Karen, I know that's my problem. I know when my head comes up, I don't hit the ball well. I know when I keep my head down, I crush it. And yet, even though I know that, even though I'm very aware of that, I have to constantly remind myself. And I think when it comes to the breathing, it's no different.
Mhm.
You fall into a habit, and when that moment comes up, you go to what you go to. How do you train yourself to
Just
do the right things? Just repetition, I assume.
repetition and, just kind of slowing the movement down, essentially, and a lot of times when you do that and you have the right exercise for yourself, your body like kind of reflexively does it. So I'll give you personal experiences myself. When I was kind of retraining some of the things that I was working on, I do a lot. I love the actual get up. I use that. That's like part of my warm up, part of my exercise, and then I'll get into the other routine that I have. And I know, like, when I started doing that, I started noticing just my body was automatically just kind of adjusting, doing things. And I wasn't thinking about it. Maybe in the beginning, I had to think a little bit about it
Yep.
because, it wasn't something that was brought to my attention. I didn't know or whatever. But once I started doing that, and then it just kind of comes reflexive for you. And that's really what you want. You want your body to like work for you and not work against you, type of things. So you want to do things that are going to favor like everyday activities. I mean, obviously you're doing the wiffle ball and things like that. So, but you still want to be able to not have a problem if you pick something up from the ground,
Right.
or if you sneeze and cough, right? Because as I said one time before, those are sharp exhales. So it always goes back to, your breathing, your inter-abdominal pressure. Like, I mean, if you're tight, on in the back or on the sides here, and you go to take a sneeze, sometimes all it is just that one time, and you're not ready. You don't have the ability to protect your spine from that.
Right.
And then and people laugh when I talk about the breathing sometimes. Like, I know this was something that even happened in our group, the networking group. Like, oh, how's my breathing going to help my sciatica? Well, it's going to help your sciatica a lot.
Yeah, right.
Well, if you
Challenge
can't
me for crying out loud.
if
That's
you
hilarious.
if you can't stabilize your spine, right? You think about it, right? Your back, your lower, actually you're, with L1, L5, you go to S1, that area there. If they're basically innervating your whole lower extremity. So if you can't like stabilize your spine, right, and you're putting too much pressure on one area, maybe you're hinging back too much, right,
Yeah.
or you're going forward, like, you could potentially herniate a disc or lock down the facets, this way. You essentially could be cutting off the nerve supply to some of the most powerful muscles in your body, or like the muscles that actually like centrate your hip. So, we're just talking lower extremity here. So you want to make sure that you can manage that the best you can, and you do it through, through breathing, proper breathing mechanics. It's
Peter,
very underrated. It's like poo poo. Everyone's like, I don't need to work on my breathing. If I wasn't breathing, I'd be dead.
Yeah. Well, again, it's all interconnected. It all really matters. Breathing is super important. When you have breathing problems too, you'll really realize how important breathing is. Peter Sheldon's going to join us in a minute, but before we get to him, I do want to show
one of the things I think about on the golf course, for example, is keep your mouth closed. Literally all the time, keep your mouth closed.
That's great.
Yeah, just keep breathing through your nose.
Yeah.
Especially in like pressure situations. I meditate, I would say, semi-regularly. Probably goes hand in hand with some of the breathing exercises and everything that I do. But, if you can carve out 10 to 15 minutes a day and
change your life.
Yeah, absolutely. And you can be consistent with it, even if it's some guided meditation on an app, whatever it is. Yeah. No one's going to sit and close their eyes for 10 minutes and do some breathing and come out of it and say they feel worse.
Right. Yeah.
Right. Like it's not going to hurt. If anything, it's going to be better.
Yeah.
So it's a very simple way to just center yourself.
He talked obviously about the importance of breathing and even talked about the fact that he meditates, and It is. It's important to sort of center and to really be able to regulate your breathing, right? And again, I think it sort of speaks to what you were saying before, which is funny. Another piece of advice for golfing partners: tell me to slow it down and let the club do the work. Remind me of that. I'll forget.
And one more other one too. Did you happen to see the actual video about him talking about intra-abdominal pressure? That's that one.
So like wider stance, intra-abdominal pressure. I try to really like just feel like I've got a real solid core to hit from. So I'm in there, I'm shuffling my feet, I've got my core nice and strong, and I'm like almost like trying to get my nervous system excited to then bring it back. It's a bit like Bryson talks about this a lot. If anything, what I try to do, I try and wind up to the top as much as possible. I try to feel like I initiate my downswing and I give my right pocket or my right hip just firing towards the ball. And that seems to clear to then create that sort of whip through and create a bit extra speed. So this could go off the planet, but I'm going to hit it hard.
Recoil and everything. Look at that. I mean, they will tell you when that hits the ground.
It's off the planet, but it's off the planet dead straight.
He talked about the wind up. He specifically said it himself, right? I wind up, and then he takes the shot.
Yep.
So he also talks about, I think he said something about his hip. So
hip comes through.
You have this in these rotational. It's a rotational sport. We all rotate anyways, but you're going to see it mostly like with the baseball, like wiffle ball when you're doing your batting and stuff. Same thing with him. The trunk has to go in opposition of whatever the lumbopelvis is doing. So the fact that he's talking about his hip it's actually going towards the right when he hits the tee. The right-sided oblique goes to the left. So it's trunk rotation to the left, but the other complex is going to the right. So it's going in opposition like your coils. So a lot of times if somebody runs into a problem, everything's kind of moving together where that's not really functionally good, if you will, or say. Yeah. So that's what he's kind of talking about when he says that. And, basically giving a lot of credit to the fact that, he started coordinate his breathing a little bit better with his hip. And there's such a huge connection with that. So you can see it in Mr. Rory McIlroy.
Also good advice when you're on the golf course. He said, keep your mouth shut. He meant as far as breathing was concerned, but I figure that's good advice all in all. Peter Sheldon.
Hey, Peter.
Peter, what's going on?
Well, I'm listening to you guys.
Hey, Peter.
This is all interesting. It feels relevant to me with how Karen's helped me. That's almost me in a nutshell, that oblique situation. But I had a few other things as well that she helped me with. It wasn't hard. It was easy. And totally made a difference where I would have cramps and soreness and weakness in that oblique area. And then it just kind of, with some of the exercises and some of the breathing techniques, a lot of that has softened. I wouldn't say I'm 100%, but I'm not, I could probably be better at doing it more consistently. Some of the routines I was given by Karen, but initially I was doing them a lot, and it really did. I don't know if I built a knot or built a cramp in there in that oblique area, but over time I did. And then some of her exercises helped loosen that up, and it just doesn't really bother me like it was.
That's great. I'm happy to hear that.
Yeah, my experience with this person, she hates when I say it, but I'm like miracle worker, just figuring out and fixing little things and, grip loss, stuff like that, things that you wouldn't think of that are so important to these sports that we're trying to play. And you sort of chalk it up to I'm old and I should feel a little beat up because that's just how it is. Nonsense. No more of that, right? Why should we live that way?
There is a solution. and it's just, but figuring out your body is, even at our age, is still a challenge. And you get that cramp or that tightness somewhere. Because I had a slew of back pain problems, and Karen helped me identify things from my knees through to my neck, just little ways of doing things, and the way she described slowing everything down and just doing these movements and these positions in a very slow, basic manner, and then repeat that and just keep doing it, and then the body like adjusts itself, and then all of a sudden this soreness or cramp like I had in my shoulder, also because I had shoulder issue, that all loosened up, and then it stopped throbbing. And then as I did it more and more, it started to lock itself into place more. And then some other muscles got triggered, and those started to strengthen up a little bit. And like, I didn't realize that my injury like had my body adjusted and compensated for the injury for me to like move while I was injured, but I never got out of that. You know what I mean? I never got out of that compensating way. And all these muscles and things kind of got out of, they kind of went dormant or just weren't working right. And, going through what she said, just kind of slow, alternate movements to the problem in a way. And sometimes it's like, well, if you work on the left side a little, it's going to help your right side. And you wouldn't really think that. Like, the average person just doesn't put all these things together. But as she showed me, I began to feel it, like how doing exactly what she said and taking her advice, her training really, and using it, just kind of, I would have never thought that, I would have never thought doing things that way is how my other problem's going to go away. Like I dealt with it, my shoulder I dealt with for a few years, my back maybe 20 something years, and had just this problem with sciatic and sacroiliac, and then that also golfing on it, and the oblique kind of was tied into it, and just that movement, because when I got injured on my back 20 something years ago, I totally modified my golf swing so that I could still play with my sciatic injury. And so my body just kind of got out of whack, like I made it work for me. It wasn't really the right way to do it. And I went on with things, but it left me with those back pains and spasms, and then the oblique problem. And so, yeah, I had been seeking someone like Karen for years. I was like, I wish I had someone who could help me figure out how to get this tightness out of my back, because it was just one muscle or tendon that was wrong, and I just couldn't figure it out. I was like, I don't know how to stretch it. I stretch all the time, but I still can't get this corrected. So that's how Karen's method has helped me a lot. Immensely over the last 9 months or so, I would say, Karen. And, I think a couple, maybe I met with Karen 6 times, 7 times. And, and I just stuck to those little things. And I swear I didn't even have to do that much of it. It was like, I did this routine she gave me for a couple weeks, and then saw her again, and she'd say, all right, do a little more of that. And then she'd give me a few more things, and then I'd go through that for a couple weeks. And so at that point in time, I was doing her stuff every day or every other day or a couple times a day, and they're, like I said, they're, like she said, they're not like aggressive therapy movements. These are subtle things, like holding your neck this way and then tweaking your shoulder. I don't know. or moving your arm in a certain direction or both arms in a certain direction just to activate certain. And these were the things that done in the proper way just took all those problems away. And now I'm driving the ball again. I'm stiffening up my clubs again because I had softened them all up because I wasn't swinging hard and I was just trying to get the distance out of like a graphite shaft in my irons or something. And then I went back to steel, and then I've even stiffened up my steel shafts to a stiffer shaft. Or I was using a lightweight shaft and now I'm back to a normal weighted shaft, which, 9 months ago, I would have said, I needed light graphite, but, because I like to play a lot. So that's me, I was only playing once or twice every week or two. And now I can play 3 times a week, no problem, week over week. And a year ago, I could only play once every 2 weeks because of my shoulder. But this thing locked back in and all the muscles are working fine. And, I'm not getting to the 14th hole feeling like all this pain I was having in my shoulder. I'm ready to go the next day and play again. So
funny he says the 14th hole.
Good, you do.
Right? Yeah, it's
tell
always
about yourself.
By the 14th hole, it's like, man, so shot. And again, right, just sort of
and you're struggling.
Let's get through the next 4 holes. Maybe I can hit one good just so I feel good about coming back next time.
You're duck hooking it or you're slicing.
Yeah.
It
oh
like
my
crazy,
God.
And it's
well, it's funny, when you were saying about making it work for you, when I thought that overcompensating thing where you kind of open up because you're gonna slice because your back's all messed up, and then you hit it right and it doesn't slice and it goes into the water on a direct shot. That's frustrating. But
and it's you've got a cramp.
Let me ask you this.
Weakness.
I just want to ask you this.
Like
was there ever a moment where you almost felt like the pain that you were going through almost made it like, is it even worth playing anymore? You know what I mean? Like, is it worth going through and feeling like this for a day or not being able to play for a week? Is it too much?
Yeah, it was upsetting. It was upsetting because I used to be like low single digit, and I'm, like to know I can shoot in a 70 something, or under 80, that's what I want to do. But if I'm shooting out, getting to like the 14th hole, and then all my holes after that are like I've got doubles and triples all over it, or always bogeys and doubles and some triple, I'm like, gosh, I'm shooting 85, 90 sometimes, and I can only play, and I can't go back for another week because I know if I go too soon, this is going to hurt too much. Or that cramp in my back is just too much, and I got to wait 2 or 3 days before I can go back. But I know I can shoot into those lower scores if I go to the course 3 times a week. Maybe it's just to the range, or maybe it's to play 9, or or maybe I'm playing 18 2 or 3 times. But that's when my score starts to get better. Things sharpen up. My wedge is better. My putter's better. I mean, that's yeah. So I mean, definitely, like when I had to wait 2 weeks to play another round, I was like, I don't know where this is going. This isn't going to be, because I always, wanted to play more when I was older, just seems to be like the thing to do, right?
Peter,
get older, play more golf.
Peter's being humble too, because he was also a really big athlete. He is into skiing, he told me. And when you were younger, remember how you said that I talk a little bit about that, because that's a big deal.
Well, I mean, I did ski and snowboard a lot when I was younger. At least in high school, middle school and high school, my parents brought me to Vermont. That they had a winter place, and we always, I was on the slopes 50 days a year in the winters.
Wow.
Maybe some years up to 70, 75. And I almost went to school, like one of those programs where people go to school to be like competitive in skiing and, try to make the Olympic team or a college team or something. So I was close to that. I didn't quite get to college competition, but in high school I competed and in the state competitions for, I didn't make the Junior Olympics, but I knew the guy who did. Those are the guys I skied with. But I was the weekend warrior. Those other guys were like, they'd be on the slopes 4 days a week when you're young and competitive. So yeah, I'm that's how I hurt my shoulder. I never got injured skiing or snowboarding when I was young. And then about 8 or 9 years ago, I hit my shoulder snowboarding. And, I'm looking to go back, and I threw my back out because of the shoulder, because the shoulder put me on the couch, and I was on the couch for 2 years because of the shoulder. And then I said, okay, I'm feeling strong enough to go snowboarding. And I went, and I didn't even hit anything. I didn't fall or anything. I just stiffened up so bad, but was feeling good enough to go on my third day in a row. And on the third day, the morning, first run 100 yards, I felt something like ripping I like tore something in my back. Ugh. So I tore some ligaments in my back. And that's how this oblique thing started. And yeah, that's another story. So I haven't been back, but I'm thinking I might make it this winter back to the slopes. I'm feeling confident again.
Good. I can't wait to hear about it. Definitely looking forward to hearing how the skiing goes for you.
Yeah, I might have to get in touch with you before I go, just so
come on down.
Sure
I also understand you have some strong feelings about Rory McIlroy. Did you want to share that?
Me? About Rory McIlroy? I don't have strong feelings about Rory. He's like a phenom. He was raised to be a professional golfer, and he's an excellent golfer. There's no doubt about it.
Isn't it fun to be featured on an episode with one of the greatest golfers ever? That must feel nice.
Yeah. I guess I feel honored, to be on a show at the same time as, Rory, but, he makes a lot of sense, tighten up and then swing, just kind of don't let things get wiggly and loose, try to solid core, solid center. It's a rotation, right? So if you were a windmill, you wouldn't want a weak center because you're start to shake yourself crazy and make mistakes. He's trying to reduce the mistakes, right? Impression I got. So what did you call it, Karen? Core
intra-abdominal pressure.
Intra-abdominal pressure.
Yep. That's what he was even referring to too. Just coordinating the breathing. Stuff that you and I went through. Just being able to breathe in and breathe out, get a good breath in through the sides of the ribs, type of thing. So that's really important. Breathing in through your nose, not having your mouth. Breathing with your mouth. I mean, you can exhale with your mouth, but for the most part, you want to make sure you breathe in through your nose because that has the filtration aspect of things and stuff.
I have become very conscientious of that since from you.
And do you notice
practicing it that through the nose, in and out the nose?
Now, do you notice since you've been doing that also that you're not getting like maybe as frequent like colds or respiratory issues? Because I know before you talked that sometimes you felt like you were sometimes maybe got some colds a little bit more frequently than normal. Did you notice like just, being more conscious of breathing through your nose that helped? I mean, maybe you noticed, maybe you didn't. Just
I haven't had any since you've taught me that technique, but I think we started in the spring. So I usually am a huge cold and flu person when like now until, March. I mean, I can get colds or flus. I'm, vitamin C and Zicam and everything I can do to avoid that.
Okay.
But yeah, I think, I'm hoping it helps.
Oh yeah, no,
Haven't had any.
no. Good. Well, that's good. I'm happy to hear that. And too, Peter, I want you to talk a little bit about what you do, because I feel like it really kind of plays into nicely about the breathing. And that's kind of how you and I got started a little bit too, because we were in a group together, networking group, and you were sharing what you do for your business. And then I was kind of talking about what I did. And in the beginning, I know you were a little skeptical, and even Joe too kind of was like, I don't really understand what she does. And I feel like you kind of felt the same way. So I want you to talk about how impactful what you do can be to someone who may be, having trouble breathing also. Because if we're talking about working at the actual mechanics of breathing with the obliques and the diaphragm, how you can actually be an added benefit with your services, with air purification, looking into mold situations. You had shared with me that you helped a family out, especially with that had some children that had some breathing issues, and getting the environment more cleaning also was very impactful. So I think that it would be great for you to talk about your business and maybe how people can get in contact with you if they would be interested in your services.
Sure. Well, I'm the owner and operator of Advanta Clean of Greater Hartford. So we've been doing this for about 15 years, and we focus on air quality solutions for home and business. Our slogan is for a healthy home and business, and focus on air quality issues like mold and water damage, mold issues. We do mold inspections, and we do air duct cleaning, and we also do moisture control solutions. And I feel like in Connecticut, yes, there are water damage issues, there are flooding occasionally, but we're not like these heavy flooded environments. What we have are a lot of old property that just has weathered over the years. They have moisture issues. Then there's the other things like plumbing issues, foundation leaks, or humidity in the basement, and people not using the dehumidifier enough. So we've got all sorts of things we do, because air quality can affect your whole respiratory. Everyone's different. Everyone's going to respond differently to a mold issue, or to what a lot of people might not even think they have a mold issue. They just think they have that dungy old basement and it's got a little bit of a basement smell. Well, those odors, and if you have a old carpet odor, oh, that's just the old carpet. It just smells a little weird. Well, some of those things are getting to your sinus, and in effect, they're getting to your, not only your lung and your breathing technique, because that can be restrictive to your breathing if you've got a flared sinus or esophagus, or your lung or diaphragm is affected. But it gets to your brain too, and some people don't realize it. Some people are more sensitive to it. I think I've become more attuned to it over the years because I've been around so many of these mold environments, and I am kind of a tuned like a tuning fork. I'm like very aware when I go to someone's house. I'm not calling myself a sniffing mold expert or like a dog or something. And people have asked me, can you smell this? Does this smell right? That's not what I'm really out to do. But, yeah, I sense odors and stuff because I've kind of trained to it. I've inspected thousands of homes over 15 years, and if there's visible mold, it's a free inspection. So that's something else I do. If it's non-visible and you're just kind of curious, I'm going to charge a little fee, but it still would be a credit to any service that we would offer. But these sinus issues, yeah, if you get syndromatic, meaning you've got a house that's got that dirty carpet, or say it flooded a little and that one area the carpet got wet and you just let it dry itself and you didn't really do anything to repair it, or to dry it out in a you need to dry those things within like 48 hours, because if you don't, mildews and molds are going to start to set in. And that little spot over there can, you might not even realize it, but over time it starts to grow and the mold issue happens and the pad gets the mold, because padding under your carpet is very susceptible to molds. It's not a very sanitized piece of material. Those pads are very inexpensive, and they are made, with all sorts of fillers and different materials that can turn to mold pretty quickly. And that something like even like that can, or you have that old dirty basement where you've walked in and out from the garden or from the yard for years, and you've got grass clippings and fertilizer on your shoes, or just general buildup of dust and dirt over time. And then maybe you didn't maintain a dehumidifier consistently. So maybe you had one and you emptied it out yourself. But in my line of work, the whole thing is about it being a self-emptying. It's got to be running all the time, and it's got to be sufficient drying coming from that dehumidifier to maintain a humidity condition low enough. Because once you let the humidity level stagnate too highly, like say 50% or more, too frequently, season in and season out, month over night, month over month, year over year, and then it's 15, 12 years later, these semi decent basements might actually have gotten mold to grow, and there might be mildews there. And now, the wife and the husband and the son and the daughter might all, and the mother and the grandmother are going to all respond to those things differently. So when one person starts to complain, you kind of have to be sensitive to them, because their eyes might be watering or itchy, or their sinus could be affected, or their breathing constricted, and it could just be from something like that basement or the carpet or the attic. If the attic wasn't properly vented, or we see a lot of issues where the vents get restricted from something like vinyl and siding being put on, and the siding contractor didn't let it vent properly, and now there's mold. Or they installed an AC unit in the attic, and now that's generating heat and stuff that it wasn't initially, and that might create mold. Or the bathroom vents venting into the attic. So that attic might actually be a source of a health issue for people. So we handle all these things from, basements to attics. Sometimes it's the air conditioning.
Yep.
Where, like that one customer, the air conditioning unit was in the crawl space, and it wasn't sealed perfectly, and there was a little air gap in the cover, and all these dirts and dusts got in there. And then in this, like right now in the fall, the cooling was turned off, and that's all it did. It didn't heat. All it was AC, and it had a bunch of humidity and moisture inside the AC unit. And then all that dust and dirt got in there. It would sit over the winter, and then it had mold in it. And this went on for a few years until a little mold turned to kind of a lot of mold. And, we got that cleaned out, and like the kid could almost tell by the next day.
That's great.
Because
That's great.
He was the one having, his allergies. So when you have children with allergies and asthma, that's what it's coming from. There's something in that. There could be something in the house that is moldy, and that a lot of people just say, oh, it's a little mildew, it's a little mold, it's a little, smell, odor in the basement. It's not such a big deal. It's like, it's not perfect, but it's not worth hiring some company to clean it. I don't want to spend $4,000 on that. I wouldn't even think of it. It's not that big of a deal. A lot of people go through life that way, just kind of saying some of these issues are okay, but what they don't know is that is the reason why they've got a bunch of asthma and allergy medical bills for their family, because
Yep.
there's something like that going on in the house somewhere. I mean, people hate to hear that, but it's
Well, it's kind of like pay now or pay later. It's with your health too. It doesn't have to be with this. It could be other things.
Right.
And some issues are huge and obvious and like very apparent, and people fix those. Other issues I think are more subtle and like hidden, and but you've got like a 60-year-old house, which many of us do in this area of Connecticut, central Connecticut. Then I mean, there are things that once you get those odors to go away, you might find that sinus breathing you're talking about is a little easier.
Mm-hmm. True.
That inhale happens and your lung wants to do it, and you don't feel like you're getting these short little breaths. You're getting a big, nice, clean breath because your body's compensating for stuff like molds and mildews. Your sinus and your respiratory and your immunity system, because these molds attack your immunity system. That's defending, against colds and flus and germs and allergies and all these other things. It's got to run and defend itself against the mold all the time, because mold causes your immunity system to run, and it's got to, fight that microbe that you're breathing all the time. So that's the fundamentals of
that's great,
mold remediation or air quality, and they usually revolve around moisture and organic material like dust, dirt, and dog hair, and stuff like that it catalyzes that moisture, gets to it, and those things like the dust, the dirt, the pollen and things like that are the catalyst. Or organic material like a carpet, it's all made with organic material, or wood, or drywall, the wall on the paper on the walls on drywall. Once that's wet and got humidity, or even wood, if it's got a humidity consistently enough and there's just a little dust and dirt around, and it gets humidity and moisture for year over year over year over year, your attic's going to start to have mold. And there are reasons for that. A lot of it's the heat transferring and the cool transferring from inside the house to the attic space, and that's why you get problems in attics, and
Peter,
why the ventilation is so important. But that's a lot. That's a lot of information, you guys.
You're giving us.
That's a lot we do. That's a
You're
lot
giving
of
us,
how we help people.
No, that's great. I appreciate you doing that, giving us all that information.
Let me explain, but that's really where we resolve a lot of problems for people.
No, that sounds great. And I want you to thank you for taking the time to explain a lot of that. But I also want you to be able to, where can people reach you if they're interested in this service?
We are well listed online at devantaclean.com. You can just look directly on our website, and there's a bunch of information on that website. If you scroll down on the page and look to the bottom, there's a blog up there. If you have questions and thoughts, you can search on our website. There's a search function, and there's all sorts of articles and historical events and
great
things that people have already been through, and stories, and techniques and things we do. Or Facebook, or you can like us on Facebook at VantaClean of Greater Hartford. We'd love that.
Great. Joe, do you want to maybe
or
drop
LinkedIn
his website in the comment section afterwards?
Oh, we'll drop it. All right. We definitely will.
Okay.
Peter, thank you so much for coming on and, obviously sharing all that information and for talking about all the stuff that you've done with Karen. I feel like you and I were in the same boat and a lot of how this has played out. So lucky us.
Yeah, I mean, Karen's a godsend. I must have been in near tears in the past few years. Like, I can't get these spasms to go away. I can't get these cramps to go away. This weakness, this weak shoulder. I mean, I had a few different. I've had that back problem for 20 something years, and I've been through physical therapy because I did a back injury many, many years ago, and I still never got it figured out. Well, I don't have this like dagger feeling anymore. So I love Karen. She's like one of my favorite people.
Oh, right back at you. Right back at you.
Yeah, he is the best. All right, well, we're gonna
Just
wrap
let
up.
that- I let that out of my-
Thanks so much. We appreciate you coming on. All right. Well, my goodness, boy, did we cover, Karen, I think, a lot of stuff tonight. I feel like we got super in depth here. And I think we're going to really make a difference for people.
I agree. That's the whole point. And what I wanted to do too is bring other people on that have their own business so they can talk about that too. So that was part of the reason why I wanted to do the Movement Boss podcast.
Yeah. Well, again, listen, movement is so important. And again, as we were talking with Pete, it's all interconnected. Everything is connected. And if you're breathing and everything is in the right order, oh my God, that's where you want to be. So tune in again next week. We'll have another great episode. We'll feature another sport, probably talk about another professional athlete, give you a little bit of insight with the miracle worker. She hates that, but I'm telling you, she's good. Karen, how do they get in touch with you?
Well, you can contact me via email at Karen@revoltandmove.com, or you can just go on my website at revoltandmove.com and just click on get started or contact me. I'll have you fill out like a little questionnaire and I'll get back to you, or you can call me. The number is listed on the website as well.
All the Karen's info will be in the comments. You can also find Pete Sheldon's as well. Thank you both. The Movement Boss, you are the best. You really are. We appreciate you so much. Until next week, I'm Joe McGuire for Karen Ravelis, the Movement Boss. We'll see you next time.
Good night, everyone.
Keep moving.